Greetings! My name's Joe Bob, and I'm very peeved. Welcome to How to Raise a Dragon. I'm sure many of you have been wondering this very thing. How does one raise a dragon? Well, here is a very scholarly game depicting the life cycle of your average dragon. With a lot of scholarly sources. Naturally, we start out as an egg. As one does. Hatchlings. Dragons hatch alone. They are not brooding creatures. This is possible because of the high degree of autonomy of newly hatched dragons. Unlike human babies, hatchling dragons can fend for themselves. While their wings are still vestigial, they can chase down and consume food without assistance, and are capable of defending themselves against predators. X.R. Quilliam, Magus, a noted expert in the field. I'm sure you've seen his writings in the local, journals. There we go. Coloration. A dragon's scales can take on almost any color in the rainbow. Contrary to popular folklore, the color of a dragon has little to do with the dragon's temperament or abilities. The color of a dragon's scales depends entirely on what food it eats while it's still a hatchling. It is unclear what causes the dragon to prefer one food over another. It may simply be a matter of personal preference. Could very well just be what they had access to at the time. Or just random chance. But yeah. You'll see it in a lot of, like, fiction. You'll see silly depictions like that, like in Dungeons and Dragons, what have you. Silly bits of folklore that, even with our modern understanding of dragons in the wild, we still can't get rid of a lot of these misconceptions. It's a shame, but such is the case for a lot of animals. Like, there are a lot of misconceptions, like how people will think that like all species of sharks will die if they ever start moving. Something. Or how great white sharks are actually some of the friendliest and least hostile of any species. So yeah, sadly, despite evidence, no matter how much evidence there is to the contrary, people will still hold on to these misconceptions about these noble creatures. Anyways, I'm just eating everything in my path. I can get it. There we go. Now, real dragons of course, have a lot more mobility in their mouth, so you don't have to worry about having to angle yourself exactly properly to eat something, but you know. Okay. And yeah, this happens to a lot of wild dragons, sadly. Well, not sadly per se, but it's a fact of life. When still a hatchling, a dragon can be captured with relative ease using cleverness or magic, preferably both. The benefits of a captive dragon are many. As magical creatures, even their droppings are useful in magical rituals. The ethics of holding captive a sentient creature are, of course, questionable, as is the wisdom of keeping such a creature for too long. X.R. Quilliam, Magus. I believe... I'm fairly certain he means sapient, as... Well, I'm not going to get into the distinction of sentience and sapience. That's a more complicated issue. Yeah. Adolescence. After several years, the newly born dragon will have grown considerably. It will be as tall as a human being, and will have achieved a great deal of strength and intelligence. A captive adolescent is not likely to stay captive for very long. The wings of an adolescent are not developed enough for true flight, but they are able to provide some lift, allowing the dragon to extend the height and length of its jumps. Naturally. Yep. Breath powers. Ah yes, the most distinctive ability of the dragon is the breath power. Dragons can channel magic through their mouths to cause amazing effects, searing fire, healing mist, or even a burst of water and magic that can cause plants to grow with incredible speed. Yeah, that's another common misconception, that dragons only breathe fire or whatever. I mean, certain things of fiction, like Dungeons and Dragons, are a bit more expansive with the various types of breath of powers, but even they are generally are just breath weapons, like shooting different types of elements like acid and what have you. While the true breaths of the breath powers is quite more expansive. Oh man, I had the pleasure of seeing one of those, that last one, the plant-based breath power in action at a park once. It was a sight to see. Each of course, all of them can potentially be used to harmful effect. The healing mist, for instance, has unfortunate effects when exposed to those already dead, for instance. Each dragon only has a single breath ability, and it seems to be determined by the dragon's diet as an adolescent. Some dragons lack any breath ability at all, perhaps due to insufficient nutrition. Yeah, that's a bit more tragic. Now then, what shall this dragon do? Perhaps... yeah. Obviously. It's a bit more simplified for convenience, but yeah. We'll have to collect 4 of a certain type of food to gain a breath effect. Now, what shall we go for? Perhaps the classic fire attack. Then, that's, yeah, it's a classic for a reason. A lot of dragons wind up with this sort of breath power, probably because sources of flame and heat are fairly common in nature. I believe... although, that doesn't account for why it's more common than the nature powers, considering, obviously, plants and such are a lot more common than fire. But perhaps it is simply a fact that dragons are more attracted to sources of flame as food sources. Yes. There we go. And fire breath. Fire breath is, in the minds of the peasantry, the most memorable of the dragon's abilities. By producing flammable gases within its stomach and lighting them with a special gland on the roof of the mouth, a dragon can produce a flame hot enough to incinerate most anything in its path. Now, come to think of it, it is perhaps possibly it isn't the case that fire is more common, but perhaps it is simply more well known. You know, like a combination of fire dragons being more likely to survive, or just more likely to be obvious with it, because a lot of fire dragons use their fire powers in very obvious ways. Not always dangerous ways, though. Not always hazardous to humans, however. Escape. There are no known cases of a captive dragon being kept past adolescence. The dragon is too intelligent and strong-willed to be held in captivity once its body and mind develop past human levels. The luckiest captors simply awake one day to find their pets missing. The less fortunate receive object lessons in the consequences of crossing dragons. Like that guy just did when I torched him. No, yeah, no known cases. However, I wouldn't be surprised if there were a couple of cases out there of less well-known people managing to keep a dragon past adolescence. But if such is the case, I highly doubt it was for very long. The dragon can be pervasive. But then, the craftiest of people with perhaps those with legions of followers might be able to pull something like that off. Adulthood. An adult dragon is at least half a century in age, several stories tall, and capable of eating a cow or human in a bite. Cruel dragons will often land on humans, killing them. Or accidentally landing on them. No, but that's a bit rarer. Dragons are a lot more graceful than you might expect for something of their size. An adult dragon can soar into the air by flapping its wings or glide by holding them out. A newly adult dragon must first find a home. Good homes are secure locations with a view of the nearby land. One can always tell when a dragon has chosen a new home. It will rest motionless in a spot for a time. Yes, we aren't actually entirely certain why this happens, but we have suspicions. Human interaction. The history of human-dragon interactions is a complex one. Some dragons ignore humans altogether, while others cause cruel and arbitrary destruction. Occasionally, a dragon will set itself up in a position of power over humans, either as a strict overlord or gracious protector. An adult dragon is a fearsome sight, and is effectively impervious to all but the most dedicated human attackers. Yo. Yeah. You'll notice that these people aren't actually reacting much. Dragons are not exactly an uncommon sight in these sorts of rural towns. And the people there generally have bigger and more important things to deal with than some random dragon running through their town, as long as it's not actively attacking them. Generally, they just don't really care that much. Yes. And here is he. Anyways. Don't mind me, just eating some of these bodies. As one does. And boom. Reclusive Watcher. The Watcher is the most mysterious of dragons. It does little harm to humans, and contents itself with staying away from all civilizations. These dragons are rarely regarded as threats to civilization. They only occasionally cause damage to human settlements, and will often only hurt humans who attempt to attack them. The heroes who attempt to destroy these dragons are typically motivated by personal fame rather than protecting civilization. Yes, we suspect that perhaps a large portion of the dragon population would fall under this category. But they tend to be, well, reclusive, and don't actually interact with civilization at all. The hero. For every dragon, there is a single human capable of posing a threat. This hero or heroine seems to have a link of destiny with the dragon. Sometimes the hero is a warrior who sets out to destroy the dragon. Alternatively, the hero may decide to befriend the dragon and work by its side. The hero may even be sent to pay tribute to a draconic tyrant. Just like dragons, heroes can be good or evil. They are recognizable only by their tremendous strength. Yes, this is a more classical definition of a hero. Nowadays it carries connotations of goodness and all, but yeah, a lot of ancient mythological heroes were heroes by dint of being powerful. Although many of them were genuinely heroic. Hercules is a good example. For all his failings, generally his he was actually a genuinely good person. Some of his worst things were done under, you know, mind control. I don't think it liked the flower. Okay, how about a big bag of money? Oh. Friendship. With the proper gifts and greetings, a hero can befriend a dragon. The partnership thus formed is as strong a bond as family or marriage. The hero and the dragon will fight for each other and serve as constant companions. Such a partnership between two dissimilar beings is special. The greatest deeds in history were done by heroes paired with dragons, and I would venture that there is no more powerful force on Earth. The end. An end, at the very least. But there were other ways that such a thing could go. Let's go with... There. That looks silly, but whatever. There we go. Healing Breath. A dragon who has ingested certain herbs and mystical substances during adolescence can produce a healing mist from its nostrils. This substance is as effective as the best man-made salves and can cure most ailments. This ability is sometimes used selfishly, so the dragon can amuse itself or reward loyal servants. Folktales more often tell of those dragons who have turned the power to benevolent purposes. Yes, this one, some would say would be the most, probably the rarest of the breath powers, since such mystical herbs are not common in nature. However, the places they are most common is in the, you know, more mystical areas of the world, the magical forests and what have you, which is also where dragons are most common. So, it is not as rare as one might think. Anyways. Ooh. Forgiveness. Even if you don't love me anymore. Occasionally, a captive dragon will forgive its captor and perform an act of kindness in a time of need. The dragon is in every way a superior beast to the human. Superior in mind, superior in body, and superior in heart. When a dragon shows anger, it burns brighter than any human rage, but draconic forgiveness shines even brighter. Only the most callous of captors could resist releasing such a noble beast. So yes, a dragon with healing power. It's a nice thing, can go around healing things, and all that. But of course, even with this, one must remember that any power can be used for less than savory purposes. Like so. And of course, when it comes to, and of course, while it may not have a outwardly offensive-based breath power, it is still a very large creature, and a very light on its feet one as well. Yeah. So that's the thing. Of course, even such less than savory powers such as necromancy can be turned to good ends. Sometimes a dragon will set itself up as a guardian of a human settlement. It may be out of true benevolence, or perhaps the same sort of condescending concern we humans have towards our pets. The motivations of dragons are inscrutable. These dragons are sometimes kind and sometimes strict. Among humans, they can generate love or resentment. And yes, Because even the powers of just as even the powers of healing can be turned to terrible ends, the powers of necromancy as well can be turned to good, to more positive ends. And so, we've got zombie, because yeah, there's nothing wrong with making the dead, giving the dead a second chance at unlife. One gets to argue. Will you actually accept my... No. Okay then, well fuck you. I'm gonna go get my bow. You rejected my flower, you'll taste my arrow. Jesus, this guy is fucking fast shot. Bloody hell. Wow. Oh. Ow. Yeah. Fall of the hero. More like fucking disembowelment of the hero. Some heroes are not meant to be meant to survive. Some beasts cannot be slain. A hero who falters, or who confronts the dragon too soon, or is simply unlucky, will die. This is the risk a hero embraces when venturing out on the ultimate quest. A hero is not a hero because of bravery. A hero is one who does what must be done, even though it is frightening, even though it is hard, and even though it may end in failure. And that's it. And now, perhaps, one more for the third type of breath. There you go, that was much easier. Plant growth breath. Certain dragons gain the ability to produce a stream of magically charged water from their mouths, which has a swift and dramatic effect on nearby vegetation. In an instant, a plant that seemed dead will be revived, and crops will flourish. Some dragons have been known to use this ability to avert famine in human communities. Others have chosen to become avengers of the forest, and fight for the plants against encroaching humans. And voila. Yep. That's that. Jeez. Ah, that's loud. Whee. Plant breath on all the things. A wild scourge. The draconic scourge is a fearsome creature. These beasts cause destruction for no apparent reason. Sometimes they demand a tribute of riches or human sacrifice, but other times they just destroy and retreat back to their distant lairs. Only the most intrepid of human heroes can approach a scourge, whether to give tribute or defeat the beast. Well, time to be an intrepid hero, I suppose. There we go. Playing the dragon. Death is a constant risk, even for the nigh immortal dragon. While dragons can live millennia, one final arrow fired by a fierce heart can end the noblest of lives. The human who slays the dragon will go down in history, but the dragon will also live forever in the hero's story. It means nothing to slay a weak beast, and so the legend of the Dragon Slayer also serves to honor the dragon who gave its life to the hero's legacy. Now, that would seem to be all. However, if I recall, there is one other path available. One implied by the text here. A somewhat less common one. Perhaps. It may be, although I'm not sure if it's less common because it doesn't happen as often, or if they simply don't survive as often. But it does certainly happen. Of a creature simply getting to adulthood without ever actually having a breath attack. Now these dragons are, you might think they're less dangerous, and to a certain extent they are. However, they also tend to be the most vicious of the dragon type, perhaps out of a sense of compensation. No, that doesn't necessarily mean they're more likely to be evil, but when they do fight, they tend to be, well, they don't mess around, what I'm saying. I myself have encountered a few of these, and they're easily among the more easily among the most dangerous I've fought. We have a rampaging tyrant. History is full of stories about tyrant dragons. These cruel creatures take control of human settlements by force, and rule with firm claws and quick judgment. Many of these tyrants seem motivated by the tribute they demand from their human subjects, while others appear to simply desire power. Whatever their reasons, draconic tyrants can rule for centuries before they are toppled by a human hero, or potentially by another dragon, which happens more rarely than you might think, as dragons tend to be solitary creatures and not muscle in on each other's territory that often. There you go. Money. Service. Through the appropriate tribute, a hero can appease a dragon enough to temper its attitudes towards humans. The hero must bring a gift and pledge service to the dragon. In doing so, the hero becomes the tool of the dragon to advance the creature's agenda. This provides the hero with great power, but it also means that the hero's freedom is granted only at the whims of the dragon. Not dissimilar from pledging yourself as a knight to a lord. In fact, very similar. If a dragon abandons a servant, the servant is often executed by other humans under the dragon's control. And that's that. Thus we see the various the common permutations that from the dragons that survive to adulthood and beyond. Well, that was How to Raise a Dragon, a sort of interactive, in-depth look on the life cycle of the common dragon by one Gregory Ware, a noted scholar in the field. Put together predominantly from the works of Magus Quilliam, who is to this field as Isaac Newton is to the natural philosophers. That's about towards dismissing some of the more fanciful myths about the dragon that sadly still perpetuate to this day, probably due to the fact that dragons tend to be, well, solitary creatures, and most people probably won't ever actually encounter a dragon up close more than a few times in their lives. But still, there is such a wealth of literature on these noble creatures out there, and it's just tragic how much misinformation people buy into. But hopefully this video will do something to mitigate such things. But yeah, I have been Joe Bob, and I'm very peeved. So long, suckers.